Okay, hello. Welcome back to Gonzo's Guide for Communication, the podcast that gives a general guide to understanding all different kinds of forms of communication. Today, we're going to be talking about expectancy violation theory. But if this is your first time listening to the podcast, let me give a little bit of an introduction. So, my name is Joshua Gonzalez, but most people call me Gonzo. I've been I've been called this for like the past decade because there's so many Joshes, and we need nicknames to tell each other apart. A little bit more about me. I am going to be graduating in about 3 weeks with my general degree in communication. It's a field which I find incredibly interesting, especially the interpersonal aspects and trying to understand someone else's perspectives. Every person that you're pretty much ever going to meet is going to have somewhat of a different perspective, if it's not even a radical one, which is why it's so important that we try to understand one another. But other than college, a little bit more about me. I have been in a relationship with my girlfriend for almost 4 years. I love gaming with friends. I like movies, television, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, before I go any further, I have to introduce my guest and classmate Lucas, who's going to be joining me in this podcast. So Lucas, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Josh. How you doing?
Doing good, doing good. I'm glad you could join me.
Thank you for having me on. I was looking forward to joining.
Yeah.
About just a little bit about myself. I'm also a Sac State student. Also gonna graduate in a couple weeks, along with Josh. I also have been in a relationship for almost 6 years now with my fiance, and I also love video games. That's the introduction I can give you.
Awesome, awesome. That's great. We definitely have some similarities, both graduating, same kind of degree, been in long-term relationships, video games. Yeah, we got a lot of those similarities.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Well, now that I have introduced my guest, let's move on to the topic. So, if you don't know what expectancy violation theory is, expectancy violation is a communication theory which tries to explain the unexpected behaviors of human beings while interacting. The theory is based on the uncertainty reduction theory, where the vagueness on the behaviors of the other is reduced through interaction. So basically, we have these expectations, and when they are violated, they result in positive and negative values. So, a positive kind of expectation that gets violated would be if I was going to Target and I saw a blue Calypso lemonade, which is my girlfriend's favorite drink, and I thought of her, and so I would buy that and give it to her. So she wouldn't be expecting it, and it would violate the expectation in a positive way to where she would, be excited about that. Whereas a negative kind of expectancy violation would be if my girlfriend was wearing a dress that she really liked, and I thought maybe it looked like it came out of the 80s, but in a bad way, and I told her that, then that would be very bad, and it would violate her expectations of me being a supporting boyfriend. So that's a little bit of positive and negatives. So there are three different kinds of kind of main subjects that we're going to be covering today, which is mind reading expectations, something called phubbing, and apologies, and how that all goes into expectancy violations. So Lucas, what do you know about expectancy violation theory? Like, in what ways have you maybe seen that in your relationship or family or friends or anything like that?
I mean, since we're on topics of our significant others, for me and my fiance, when it comes to like certain expectations, for her, she's a big snacker. She loves snacks,
Mm-hmm.
and so for her, like her favorite chip is Ruffles sour cream and onion chips.
Those are
So
good. Those are
I
so
know,
good.
so good. And for her, so typically, I know she snacks a lot, and sometimes she's like, "Oh, you didn't pick up a snack for me," or sometimes I like, "Oh, I know she's probably hungry right now." When she gets off work, I'll get her a bag of chips because I know that's her favorite thing, and something she'll look forward to, or more of a surprise for her. So I think for her, it's like we know each other's like habits in like those small ways.
Yeah, absolutely. That's yeah, no, it's that's a really good example, and something that I've definitely. My girlfriend loves to snack too. Like, I can't even tell you how many times she's been at my house and she's like, "What kind of snacks do you have?" And I'm not a huge snacker, not always, and so I'm just like, I don't know, like whatever's in there. But so I try when I can to
Yeah,
put
I
stuff
feel
in
like
there.
once
But
you're so far in a relationship, you start to notice like, oh, I think I'll put my what's it called, my cabinets with certain stuff I know they'll ask for.
yeah, exactly. Like I know that she loves Pop Tarts, so I'll just like try to grab Pop Tarts when
Best part tart.
I can. Yeah. So we're gonna move into the first part of expectancy violation theory that I found really interesting, which is mind reading expectations. So in a study by Wright and Roloff in 2015, they found that mind reading expectations can have such negative implications that individuals who are high in mind reading expectations, they expect their relationship partners to understand their needs and feelings without having been told at all. So a question that I would ask would be, in your relationship, have you ever seen either you or your significant other, have either of you ever said I'm fine when you're not fine?
Oh yeah, most definitely. I've encountered that plenty of times, and I feel like um, even sometimes even I'm even learning today. Like I feel like early in a relationship, I don't think I was as good as it as I was as I am now. Now who I know, my fiance after 6 years now, like I know her tendencies, and I know when she's like upset about something and she's not fully either not saying it or she's being very silent about it, and I know something is wrong. And when I ask her, you get that question of, I mean, that answer of, "Oh, I'm fine," and it's like I was like, I know you're not fine, but it's kind of like I got to figure out whether to push more on it or to let it settle and ask her again later. There's a lot of times
Mm-hmm.
that I encounter that kind of situation.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that's it can be difficult to navigate because relationships are going to be, they're a challenge. They're not going to always come easy, and it's not we're not going to be able to do the same thing every time. It's like we might at some point need to push and ask like, hey, what's wrong? Like, let's talk about it. Let's move past this, or let's get to the bottom of it. And other times the person needs space or time to just recover on their own.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Do you think that there is an expectation that you should know that they're not fine when they're not fine in that moment?
I think there is certain expectations that that I feel like our significant others have, and as far as like, hey, if something is wrong, I know my fiance has told me, she's like, when I'm like really upset and I just want to cry and like I'm very emotional, she's like, she told me this like for the when something in the future happens, if she's not wrong, where she tells me, I want you to hug me because I know when I'm
Mm-hmm.
upset I just need a hug, and I do that, and sometimes other times like, well, I'm hugging her, she's like, no, I don't want to hug right now, and then I kind of pull her a little tighter, and then like she feels better about certain
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So I mean, it happens in two ways. I feel like one is being like, our partners will tell us that kind of stuff in the future, so we're prepared, and I feel like that's a good thing. And then other times where now when the moment comes, we have to be ready on our feet to when they want that expectation of, uh, when they're not okay.
Yeah, no, that's a really good example because as you pointed out there, it's part of it is communicating beforehand. Like you said, your fiance telling you that, hey, it's like when I'm like this, I need a hug, and even when she says I don't need a hug,
I gotta
she
pull her
needs
in
a hug.
closer.
Yeah, you got to pull her closer. You got to be able to read past it sometimes.
Yeah, yeah.
But it can be difficult, especially like if there's no communication explaining that or talking about that.
Yeah, it's very nice when a partner like kind of preps you a little bit and for that when you're not expecting it. Because I feel like if I didn't know that, I would have not just put like, oh, I'll leave you alone. I'm not gonna give you a hug if you're upset.
Yeah,
Which
yeah,
don't do
I
that.
definitely can understand that. So the next thing I want to jump into, it's called fubbing. Have you heard of fubbing before?
It sounds like I've never heard of it. It just sounds like something from Urban Dictionary to me.
Honestly, that's what I thought when I first came across it, and I had read a couple different articles talking about fubbing, which is actually it's seen in so many different relationships.
Josh, let me know.
Uh,
Let me know what fubbing is. I need
okay,
to know.
I'll tell you what fubbing is. Okay, so through an article, this guy named Cadillac, he defined fubbing. It's glancing at or using one's mobile phone during a face-to-face interaction that breaches interpersonal expectations. So, like in my family, there is an expectation that when you're at the dinner table, the phone either doesn't come out of your pocket or it has to remain face down on the table. So it's kind of like a traditional, I guess, approach where there's this higher importance on family that we don't want to be like distracted or anything like that. But there's been, I can't even tell you the amount of times I've been at a restaurant and I pulled out my phone and basically got my hand swatted as a result.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. That's now that I hear it, I've definitely have encountered that with my friends when we go out to dinner, where we had this running joke where uh, if we all put our phone in the middle, and if somebody grabs for their phone, they have to pay for dinner. So I'm just like, oh hell no, I'm not paying for dinner. But yeah,
So has that happened before? Have one of you guys had to have you had to pay for dinner?
no, luckily I'm good enough. Like me personally, I'm okay with like not being on my phone and being in the moment with people for sure. But I've
Mm-hmm.
definitely been with people where they will be on their phone and we're talking, we're speaking, and then I feel like the phone is more used for what's it called, to kind of fill in. It's like a filler when in conversation when
Yeah.
nothing's happening. So, but I feel like for other people that might be a crutch, but I don't know. But I get what you're saying though. As far as now, I understand what fubbing is. I didn't know there was a term for it.
No, yeah, yeah. It's very it's a very interesting term, I would say. And one of the things that I found in like relationships is that using a cell phone when spending time with partners, it's usually considered a like neutral expectation for behaviors. So like if you're using, the phone while it's just hanging out, it's usually not so much a negative kind of a thing. But if you're at the dinner table, you're checking sports scores, you're like on the phone so often where, in places where the context calls for more attention to the partner, that's when it's like a negative thing.
Oh yeah,
But like
I
you said,
definitely
it's
see
like, yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah. Awesome. Well, let's move on to the final point, which is apologies. So, it was defined by Bippus and Young as a unique type of speech act that is distinguishable between the remedial tactics of accounts, which provides justification or excuses for wrongdoing, and apologies, which acknowledge blameworthiness and regret. So, my question to you is, do you think that the type of apology matters? Like the way you apologize? Do you think that there's like a certain way of doing it right and a way of doing it wrong?
Yeah, definitely. There is. Yeah, now you think about it. Yeah, there's definitely a way to apologize. It's not as simple. Hey, I'm sorry, and we move on. It's definitely. It could be a lot of factors. Whether I would say it depends on the severity of the apology. I would say so. Like, say if I told a white lie, it's like, hey, I went out with friends, and my fiance's like, well, you didn't go out with friends, and I know where you really went. Versus if we got in a fight and it was like a big fight about something, and like it requires more of a process of forgiveness, I feel like, and like from
Yeah,
my point of
no,
view.
yeah, no, I think you hit the nail right on the head. That especially the severity of the like the violation, it definitely matters because yeah, it's like if like you said, it's like if something big happens and you just said, "Oh, I'm sorry," and then expected it to move on, I'm sure it would not be enough.
Yeah, I mean for you, have you ever encountered, like, as far as like a different situation of an apology?
So growing up, in my family, both my brother and my mom, they would often, they would, I don't want to say justify their like wrongdoing, but they would, as they were saying sorry, they'd basically be giving the reason for why they did what they did, instead of like accepting the blame. So that kind of apology, like when it would happen to me, it'd be really hard for me to forgive, because it'd be like, oh, are you actually sorry, or are you just like giving the reason why you did it?
Yeah, and I think that's like the biggest thing is having people understand why you are upset. I think that's like the key factor in all that.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. I yeah. I've seen that in my relationship with my girlfriend, where understanding what I did wrong and like being able to figure out like how to like fix that. Because there might be times where it's like I don't think like this was wrong or this was wrong, but I know that this thing that I said was definitely wrong. And so this is what I did that like hurt her, kind of a thing, and then figuring out how to make amends.
Yeah, I think it's just knowing as far as like, and sometimes we don't know what we've violated as far as when it comes to an argument. Because for us, it can be like, well, I don't think it was, what I did was that wrong. Versus the person's like, for you got to understand from my perspective that what you did wrong is not so much a heinous act, but more of a, this hurt me so much that it had an effect on me. I think that's the difference.
Yeah, no, that's a very good distinction. That's a super good distinction. All right, well, I think that's about all the time that we have for today. So, Lucas, can I give you like a shout out? Like, where can people find you? Are you on YouTube? Are you on Twitch? Like,
Uh,
got
n-
anything?
I have a YouTube, yes I do, but I don't really post anything on it. It's what's it called? It's Chief Queso. That's what I
Chief
go.
Queso. Okay.
That's what usually I go by. Otherwise, yeah, that's what I call. That's what I go by. But I was glad to be here today, Josh. I felt like learned a
Awesome.
lot.
Yeah.
I will remember the
Yeah.
word fubbing now.
I'm glad that you had a good time, and I'm so glad that you were able to join me on this podcast. So, yeah, if any of you guys are listening to this, check out Chief Queso on YouTube or wherever. If you see him in a game online, send him a hey from Gonzo, and yeah, I'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.